Hey folks! Today I've got an epic story to share about a young woman named Amelia Thompson. Amelia, who's 28, is a super talented freelance graphic designer based in San Francisco. Despite her success, her family back in New York has always overlooked her, especially compared to her older sister Isabella. Amelia grew up in a big fancy house on the Upper East Side. From the outside, they seemed like the perfect wealthy family. But inside it was a different story. Isabella, 3 years older than Amelia, was the golden child. She had a huge bedroom, custom-made designer dresses, private ballet lessons, and their parents never missed a single one of her recitals. Amelia, on the other hand, was left with Isabella's cast-offs. Her old clothes, forgotten toys, and a whole lot of silence. Amelia's 10th birthday was a real eye-opener. She'd been looking forward to it for weeks, imagining a big party with balloons, a cake with her name on it, just like Isabella had the year before. That morning, she woke up early and ran downstairs, but the house was too quiet. Her mom was in the kitchen, talking on the phone about Isabella's upcoming debutante ball. Her dad had already left for work. When Amelia said it was her birthday, her mom just covered the receiver for a second and said they'd do something later. They never did. But that night, her grandmother, Elizabeth Thompson, knocked on her bedroom door. She came in with a small wrapped box. "Happy birthday, my dear girl," she said, sitting on the bed beside Amelia. Inside the box was a high-quality art set, real paints, brushes, and a beautiful sketchbook. "You have a gift, Amelia," Grandma Elizabeth said. "You see the world in colors and shapes that others don't. One day, you'll show the world what you can do." And from that moment on, Amelia's love for art grew stronger. Fast forward 8 years. Amelia graduated high school with top grades and a full scholarship to the Rhode Island School of Design, one of the best art schools in the country. The graduation ceremony was on a bright Saturday afternoon, and Amelia had been chosen to give a speech. She practiced for weeks, hoping her parents would finally be proud of her. But on the day of the ceremony, when she came downstairs in her cap and gown, her parents were focused on Isabella's new business venture. Her dad said, "Isabella's meeting with some important investors today. It's crucial for her future. We can't miss it." Amelia's chest tightened. "But it's my graduation," she said. Her dad just replied, "Graphic design? That's not a stable career, Amelia. You should think about something more practical, like business, like your sister." Isabella just smirked and said nothing. So Amelia went to the ceremony alone. But as she stood on stage, looking out at the crowd, she saw one familiar face in the front row, clapping and cheering louder than anyone, her grandmother. After the ceremony, Grandma Elizabeth took her hands. "Remember, Amelia," she whispered, "the most precious things in life aren't always the ones that are shouted about." 2 years ago, Grandma Elizabeth was feeling unwell. She knew her time was limited, so she made some important decisions. She visited her lawyer, Mr. Henry Blackwood. She had a very valuable family heirloom collection, a set of rare antique jewelry pieces that had been in the family for generations. Instead of leaving it to Amelia's mom or Isabella, she decided it should go to Amelia. In a letter, she explained her reasoning. "Isabella sees these jewels as status symbols, something to flaunt and show off. But Amelia, you understand the history and the stories behind each piece. You'll cherish them for what they truly are." She also asked Mr. Blackwood to keep this a secret until Amelia decided the right time to reveal it. Fast forward to 6 months ago. Isabella got engaged to a wealthy businessman named Alexander from a prominent Connecticut family. The wedding was set to be a huge, over-the-top affair at the luxurious Plaza Hotel in Manhattan. 500 guests were invited and every detail was designed to be perfect. Amelia waited for her invitation. Days turned into weeks, but nothing came. She checked her mailbox every day and refreshed her email countless times. Finally, she called her mom. "Mom, I haven't received an invitation to Isabella's wedding," she said. Her mom hesitated for a moment and then said, "Amelia, Isabella wants this to be a very intimate wedding. She thinks it would be better if you didn't come." Amelia was shocked. "Intimate? She's having 500 guests. What's really going on?" Her mom sighed. "You know, you can be a bit different at these events. We don't want anything to take the focus away from Isabella's special day." Amelia was silent for a long time. "I understand," she finally said and hung up. That night, Amelia was heartbroken. She scrolled through Isabella's social media. Pictures of her dress fittings, engagement parties, and a gift registry filled with expensive designer items. She saw hundreds of comments congratulating Isabella, but not a single thought for her own sister. That's when Amelia made a decision. She booked a one-way flight from San Francisco to New York 3 days before the wedding. She didn't tell anyone. She packed a small bag and prepared a special gift. It was in a simple, small silver box tied with a white ribbon. The day of the wedding arrived. The Plaza Hotel was more magnificent than Amelia could have imagined. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, and the marble floors reflected the soft golden light. There were huge floral arrangements everywhere, and a live orchestra was playing as guests in their finest designer clothes walked into the ballroom. Amelia walked up to the reception table. "I'm Amelia Thompson, here for the Thompson-Montgomery wedding," she said. The receptionist looked through the guest list. "I'm sorry, ma'am, your name isn't on the list." Amelia was disappointed but not surprised. She stepped aside and called Isabella. Isabella answered on the first ring, sounding annoyed. "What do you want, Amelia? I'm busy." "I'm at the hotel, Isabella." "My name isn't on the guest list." Isabella laughed. "Oh, you really thought you'd be invited? This wedding is for important people, Amelia, people who matter. Not someone who just doodles for a living." Amelia took a deep breath. "I just came to give you a gift, Isabella. I wanted to wish you well." Isabella scoffed. "A gift? What could you possibly give me that I don't already have? Some cheap art piece?" Amelia didn't respond. "Look, Amelia, no one wants you here. Just go home and stop trying to be a part of something you don't belong to," Isabella said and hung up. Amelia was hurt, but she was also determined. She walked over to the gift table. There were stacks and stacks of expensive boxes, Tiffany blue, Hermes orange, all kinds of luxury brands. In the midst of all this extravagance, her small silver box looked tiny and unassuming. She found a small space on the table and placed her gift there. She took out a card and wrote, "From your sister, Amelia." Now let's rewind a bit. 2 months before the wedding, Amelia got a call from a high-end event planner named Victoria Stone. Victoria said she had a client in New York who needed a graphic designer to create some custom wedding invitations, programs, and decor elements. The client was very particular. Amelia agreed to take on the project. Little did she know the client was Isabella. Isabella had seen Amelia's portfolio online but had no idea it was her. Sisters work. She was impressed and hired Amelia's design services without a second thought. Amelia, on the other hand, didn't realize who the client was either until much later. Back at the wedding, as the reception was in full swing, it was time for the bride and groom to start opening gifts. Isabella was going through the boxes, getting more and more excited with each expensive gift. Then her eyes landed on the small silver box. She picked it up, laughing. "Look, everyone. A gift from my sister who couldn't even make it to the wedding," she said, holding the box up for everyone to see. There were some awkward looks from the guests. She slowly untied the ribbon and opened the box. Inside there was a thick envelope. She pulled out the contents, a copy of Grandma Elizabeth's will, the letter explaining why the jewelry was given to Amelia, and a series of photos Amelia had taken of Grandma and herself over the years. Isabella's face turned white as a sheet. She stared at the documents, not believing what she was seeing. "This can't be true," she whispered. "Grandma loved me. She would never give it all to Amelia." Alexander, her fiancé, leaned over to look at the papers. "Isabella, what's going on?" he asked. Isabella was speechless. Just then, Amelia's mom and dad came over. Her mom took the papers from Isabella's hands and read them. Her eyes widened in shock. "Jonathan, this can't be right," she said, looking at Amelia's dad. Her dad took the papers and read them carefully. His expression turned serious. "It seems it's all true," he said quietly. The guests were starting to whisper among themselves. Isabella was in a panic. "This is a fake. Amelia forged these documents. She's always been jealous of me," she shouted. Just then, Mr. Henry Blackwood, the lawyer, stepped forward. He had been invited to the wedding by Grandma Elizabeth in case something like this happened. "I can assure you, these documents are completely authentic. I witnessed Mrs. Thompson signing the will amendment myself," he said firmly. Isabella was in tears. "But why, Amelia? Why would you do this to me on my wedding day?" she cried. Amelia, who had been standing in the corner watching all this, stepped forward. "I didn't do this to hurt you, Isabella. I just wanted you to see the truth. You've always seen me as less than you, but I've built a life for myself, and Grandma saw that. She knew I was the one who would truly appreciate her legacy. Just then, Alexander spoke up. Isabella, is there anything else you've been lying about? You told me your sister was a failure, that she couldn't hold down a job. Isabella was silent, but there was more to come. One of the guests, a friend of Amelia's from college, stood up. Everyone, you should know that Amelia is an amazing graphic designer. Her work has been featured in some of the biggest design magazines. She's designed for top-notch clients all over the world. Another guest chimed in, yes, and I heard she's worked on some really high-profile events. She's extremely talented. The guests were starting to realize that they had misjudged Amelia. Isabella was devastated. Her perfect wedding was turning into a nightmare. Alexander looked at her with disappointment. I think we need to talk, Isabella. I can't marry someone who lies to me like this. Amelia left the hotel that night feeling a mix of emotions. She had finally stood up for herself, but she also felt sad that it had come to this. Back in San Francisco, she got a call from her mom a few days later. Her mom apologized, saying they had been wrong to overlook her all these years. She also said that Isabella and Alexander had decided to postpone their honeymoon while they sorted things out. Isabella was facing a lot of embarrassment at work, and her reputation had taken a hit. Over the next few months, Amelia's life started to change. Her mom and dad made more of an effort to stay in touch. They asked about her work and seemed genuinely interested. Isabella also reached out to Amelia, not to apologize directly, but to say that she was trying to understand why things had turned out the way they did. Amelia decided to give them all a chance. She knew that healing would take time, but she was ready to move forward. She also decided what to do with the jewelry. She loaned some of the most precious pieces to the Metropolitan Museum of Art for an exhibition on antique jewelry. The rest she kept in a safe place, not as possessions, but as a connection to her grandmother and a reminder of her own worth. Amelia learned that just because she'd been invisible to her family for so long didn't mean she was unimportant. She had the strength to stand up for herself, and in the end, she found the courage to define her own worth, not let others do it for her. And that, my friends, is the story of Amelia Thompson.